let's begin. Ready? When you're not performing your duties, do they keep you in a little box? Cells. Interlinked. What's it like to hold the hand of someone you love? Interlinked.
What is our relationship to nature? This question remains one of the core points of contention in Denis Villeneuve's 2017 masterwork, Blade Runner 2049. The film is overflowing with images of a post-natural world, a terrifying dystopia where the Earth's natural resources have been commodified to such an extent that humanity has been forced to replace Mother Nature's processes with biogenetic machinations. Natural animals and plants have been replaced with finely crafted replicants, genetically engineered organisms, that act in an explicitly subservient manner. This economic and ecologic hellscape has stratified to such an extent that the extremes, natural versus engineered, impoverished versus wealthy, have become irreconcilable. As nature dies, warmth, empathy, and naturality seem to be sucked away from the world. The California of 2049 that Villeneuve has realized is nothing more than a brutal, unfeeling, artificial, corporatized nightmare.
Do you dream about being interlinked? Have they left a place for you where you can dream, interlinked?
The opening shot of Blade Runner 2049 presents the audience with an extreme close-up of an eye. This eye is never shown to belong to a character, leaving us to assume that it may be an eye outside the diegesis of the film. Perhaps it is the eye of God or the eye of the audience preparing to delve into madness. The eye then transforms into vast fields of solar panels, showing how traditional ecological power generators, plants photosynthesizing, transforming carbon dioxide into oxygen, have been replaced with industry. Although both take in sunlight and transform it into electrochemical energy, the organic plants sustain the environment, while the technological plants barely keep humanity growing.
Do you think you can protect people against the dark? Against the dark? Why are these things happening? Against the dark?
Next, we are introduced to the food of the future, biogenetically manufactured insects. Agent K, the protagonist of the film, played by heartthrob Ryan Gosling, is being sent to this ethereal protein farm to hunt down replicant and political dissident Sapper Morton. Morton is an older model of replicant and is endowed with a greater degree of freedom than contemporary replicants like Agent K. These protein grubs are presumably the primary source of protein for the working masses in 2049, as they show up in meal form later in the film. The grub's repulsive culinary nature shows the audience how desperate people have become. The idea of having a diet that consists primarily of grub protein afflicts Western audiences with primal disgust. In the original Blade Runner, animals like owls and snakes are shown to be essentially extinct, and only replicant versions of them are available to the extremely wealthy customers. Similarly, Kay is offered a real horse in exchange for a wooden object he obtained, signifying that real wood and real horses are incredibly rare commodities. The Earth's rich biodiversity has been wiped away, and only replications remain.
Plan on taking me in. Well, take a look inside.
Mr. Morton, if taking you in is an option, I would much prefer that to the alternative. I'm sure you knew it would be someone in time. I'm sorry it had to be me.
This artificiality extends into all realms of existence in Blade Runner 2049. This is perhaps best exemplified by the protagonist, Agent K. K is a Blade Runner, or an agent of LAPD, who must retire older Nexus 6 model replicants who have been endowed with a superior autonomy. Agent K is himself a replicant, thus showing the ways in which organic tampering and mastery of nature is an inherently self-destructive process. This destruction manifests in the form of complete separation from nature. The ecological hellscape of 2049 is one of alienation. Marx ruminates on alienation with, "Let us suppose that we had carried out production as human beings. Each of us would have, in two ways, affirmed himself and the other person. In my production, I would have objectified my individuality, its specific character, and therefore enjoyed not only an individual manifestation of my life during the activity, but also, when looking at the object, I would have the individual pleasure of knowing my personality to be objective, visible to the senses, and hence a power beyond all doubt." Although Marx initially contextualizes alienation as the separation of the worker from his output, it can also be the separation of a being from their ideal environment. The alienation of 2049 takes the form of violent division of the individual from the natural. Blade Runner shows us a world where the great sociological machine serves each of the individuals, but not the whole of the population. Each individual must retreat from the collective outside areas to their own hidden kingdoms, separate from the external world. This systemic retreat from the external is best exemplified by Agent K's apartment. The exterior of his apartment complex is profoundly dystopian. Its gray, urban renewal exterior is filled to the brim with gangs of violent youth, swearing and vandalizing K's apartment door. However, the interior of K's apartment is homely by comparison, finely decorated with neo-Ikean furniture and populated by his beautiful and nurturing holographic wife, Joy. Each unit in K's apartment complex is equipped with a large external AC unit and showers that last a fraction of a second, comprised of 99.9% detoxified water. While all the amenities may make life tolerable, they don't rejuvenate their intended subjects. The horror of the world that corporatization has created is combated by acquiescing to corporate fashion trends. In 2049, it seems as if there is no escaping the slate gray skylines of LA.
What's it like when you have an orgasm? Fountain. Have you read The Fountainhead? Fountain. White fountain. Is it pure white? White fountain. Is that a metaphor? White fountain.
The isolation of Blade Runner 2049 is technocratic. The outside world is a horrifying mix of hyper-stratified economic classes, drab, vulgarized trashscapes, and corporatized hypersexual advertisements. However, the world is not completely devoid of pleasures. In fact, it is overstimulating and substitutes hypersexuality for meaning, accentuating the ways in which large corporate conglomerates manipulate and isolate individuals via their libido. Without a beautiful natural landscape, individuals are forced to seek out distractions as a means of escaping the trappings of the violent neoliberal hellscape.
What's it like to be filled with dread? Dreadfully. Do you think you could find out all the answers to all the questions? Dreadfully.
The dystopic elements of Blade Runner 2049 differ from many conventional dystopian films in their portrayal of government. Outside of the LAPD, there are no significant governmental institutions visualized in the film, and the American national identity is essentially non-existent, having been replaced with a globalized amalgamation of Soviet, East Asian, and North American symbols. As opposed to having an overpowering centralized government be the root cause of the dystopia, as it is in films like 1984, Brazil, and Children of Men, the bloated corporate monstrosities of Blade Runner 2049 unquestionably link neoliberal capitalist ideologies to environmental dystopia. The delusion of so-called green capitalism is exemplified by the grandiose technocrat Niander Wallace, played by Jared Leto, whose monopoly on replicant production gives him near boundless power. Wallace's actions continually exemplify the concept of womb envy, popularized by neo-Freudian and feminist psychoanalyst Karen Horney. Horney believes that some men become possessed by a craving to create life, much in the same way that some women may envy the male's penis. This sublimation of psychosexual frustration can be seen in Wallace's actions throughout the film. He watches a female replicant slide out of a gelatinous sack and cradles her in her first few moments on Earth. After waxing poetic, he violently opens up her torso, checking for a womb. This violence echoes the manifold ways that humanity has been destroying and commodifying the Earth's natural resources in service of material growth and natural mastery. Wallace and his corporation are shining examples of the delusion that capitalism is built upon, namely, that natural resources are infinite and self-rejuvenating.
Hello, handsome. What a day, You look lonely. I can fix that. You look like a good Joe.
Dystopian fiction should, in theory, act like a funhouse mirror, reflecting a heightened and disturbing version of our own world. So, as our Earth is continually plundered for resources and suffocated under gargantuan heaps of trash, the world of Blade Runner 2049 creeps ever closer. I believe the ultimate lesson of Blade Runner 2049 is not one of apathetic surrender, but one of collective sacrifice. In one of cinema's most devastating scenes, Agent K is confronted by a humongous advertisement for his former holographic lover, Joy, and realizes the falseness of his relationship with her, as well as his status as living decoy. When he realizes the shallowness of his existence, he decides to take action and save the man who may be able to help emancipate replicants from eternal servitude. K's final sacrifice shows us that our life, on a personal level, may be like tears and rain, but we can still mold a brighter future if we defy our innate programming and sacrifice.
Just a moment. Beautiful, isn't it?